When family asks for help, you expect honesty, not betrayal. But when my cousin told me we were splitting the wedding costs, I never imagined she'd hand me a $12,000 invoice. What she didn't know was, I had my own plan. I never thought family could pull something like this on me. My cousin Emily and I grew up almost like sisters. We were close, always spending holidays together, sharing secrets, and supporting each other through everything. So when she announced her wedding, I was genuinely happy for her. She had met this guy, Adam, and after 2 years of dating, they were ready to tie the knot. At first, everything sounded exciting. Emily called me one evening and said, "Hey, we're trying to keep the wedding simple, budget-friendly. But since family always helps family, I was thinking we could split some costs." I thought she meant small things. Maybe helping with decorations, or buying a few extra bottles of wine. I said yes without hesitation. "Of course, Em. Whatever you need, I've got you," I told her. She sounded relieved. "You're the best. I knew you'd understand." For weeks, I didn't hear anything more about it. She would send me little updates about the dress, the flowers, and how stressed she was. I tried to be supportive, even offering to help with planning. She brushed it off, saying she had it under control. Then, about 3 months before the wedding, I got an email. It was an invoice. At first, I thought it was spam. But no, it was from Emily. My eyes nearly popped out of my head when I saw the amount. $12,000. I thought it had to be a mistake. I immediately called her. "Emily, what is this?" Her voice was calm, almost casual. "Oh, that's your share of the wedding costs. We agreed to split it, remember?" I froze. "Split what? $12,000, Emily? Are you serious?" She sighed like I was being dramatic. "Look, weddings are expensive. We've already booked the venue, catering, photographer, and everything. It's only fair you help out." "Fair?" I repeated. "How is this fair? I never agreed to pay for half your wedding. You asked me to help, not fund the whole thing." Emily's tone hardened. "You said you'd do whatever I needed. This is what I need." I was speechless. I hung up, hoping she'd realize how insane this was. But instead, the next day, she sent a follow-up message. "Payment is due in 2 weeks. Don't let me down." That's when anger started to build inside me. At first, I felt guilty, like maybe I was letting her down as family. But then I realized this wasn't about family. This was manipulation. She was using me like an ATM. I told my mom about it, hoping for some advice. But she only shook her head and said, "Emily has always been entitled. Don't let her bully you." I decided not to respond right away. I needed time to think. Meanwhile, Emily kept posting on social media about the wedding. Fancy venue, luxury decorations, designer dress. Clearly, this wasn't about a simple, budget-friendly wedding. This was about showing off. And she wanted me to pay for it. 2 weeks passed, and when I didn't send the money, she called again. This time she was furious. "Why are you ignoring me? I need that money now. The vendors are waiting." I stayed calm. "Emily, I'm not paying for your wedding. I didn't agree to this." Her voice turned cold. "If you don't pay, you're not welcome at the wedding. Simple as that." For a moment, her words stung. This was family. My cousin, my best friend growing up. And she was ready to cut me off over money. But then something inside me hardened. If that was how she wanted to play it, fine. I said, "All right, Emily. Do what you have to do." And I hung up. But I wasn't going to let her win so easily. The weeks leading up to her wedding were filled with tension. She stopped talking to me, except for occasional rude texts demanding money. Our relatives started whispering about family drama. I kept quiet, pretending I didn't care. But inside, I was planning. You see, Emily had made one big mistake. She had made me a bridesmaid months ago, before this whole mess started. And she had already given me access to the group chats, the planning documents, and even her wedding website. She trusted me with details that, if handled carefully, could make or break her big day. I wasn't going to sabotage her wedding completely. I'm not that cruel. But I wanted her to feel the weight of what she had done to me. I wanted her to understand that using people for money has consequences. So I started small. I noticed in the bridesmaid group chat that Emily hadn't finalized transportation for the bridal party. She kept putting it off. I volunteered to handle it. She gratefully accepted, saying, "Finally, you're being useful." Instead of booking the luxury limo she wanted, I arranged for a simple shuttle bus. When she found out a week later, she screamed at me over the phone. "A bus? Are you kidding me? I wanted a limousine." I pretended to sound apologetic. "Sorry, Em. But with the budget tight, I thought this was more reasonable. She fumed but couldn't cancel, it was too late. That was just the beginning. Emily didn't speak to me for 3 days after the bus fiasco. She only sent short, clipped messages in the group chat, mostly to the other bridesmaids. I could feel her anger, but I played innocent, pretending I was just trying to help. The truth was I wasn't done yet. 1 week before the wedding, Emily finally sent us the finalized schedule. It was detailed down to the minute. Ceremony, cocktail hour, dinner, speeches, first dance. It was all mapped out like a military operation. That's when I noticed something interesting. Emily had left me in charge of contacting the florist. Apparently, she trusted me to confirm the delivery times. That trust would soon backfire. Instead of confirming the flowers for 10 a.m., I casually mixed up the time and told them to arrive at 5 p.m., 2 hours after the ceremony was supposed to start. On the wedding day, when everyone showed up at the venue, the place looked bare. No roses, no centerpieces, no archway decorated for the vows. Emily nearly had a meltdown. She stormed up to me in her silk robe, her face pale with panic. "Where are the flowers?" she hissed. I feigned shock. "Oh no, they're not here yet? I confirmed with them days ago. Let me check." While she screamed at Adam and the wedding planner, I stepped outside, pulled out my phone, and called the florist. "Hi, just checking on the delivery for 5 p.m.? I said sweetly. "Of course, we'll be there right on time," they replied. Perfect. By the time the flowers arrived, the guests were already restless, whispering about the empty decorations. Emily was nearly in tears, snapping at everyone, trying to hold it together. But I wasn't finished. You see, the real chaos came during the reception. Emily had hired a band, one she bragged about endlessly. "They're the best in town. Everyone will be talking about this band for weeks," she told me. The problem was, she forgot to double-check their song list. She wanted a classy, romantic vibe. I, on the other hand, thought the evening needed a little spice. Remember how I still had access to her planning documents? Well, I had emailed the band 2 weeks earlier, pretending to be Emily, and suggested a different playlist. Instead of elegant jazz, they came prepared with upbeat pop hits and even a few old-school party anthems. When the reception started, Emily walked in expecting soft music. Instead, the band blasted Dancing Queen at full volume. Her face turned red instantly. She looked around in horror as the guests jumped up, laughing and singing along. "What is this?" she mouthed to me across the room. I shrugged, pretending to be as surprised as she was. But here's the thing. While Emily was fuming, her guests were actually having the time of their lives. People danced, clapped, and shouted requests. The energy was electric, completely different from the stiff, boring atmosphere Emily had envisioned. For once, people weren't whispering about her dress or the late flowers. They were actually enjoying themselves. But Emily couldn't see that. She was too focused on the fact that things weren't going her way. At dinner, she cornered me. "Did you do this? Did you mess with the band?" I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Why would I do that? I'm just here to celebrate." She glared at me, her eyes narrowing, but she couldn't prove anything. And then came the final blow. During her speech, Emily wanted to thank all the people who made the wedding possible. She had a whole list prepared: parents, vendors, bridesmaids. She even mentioned me briefly, though with a tone that suggested she hated saying my name. But what she didn't know was that I had already prepared my own little surprise. The wedding website she made? Remember how she gave me editing access months ago? Well, I used that access the night before the wedding. On the main page, under the thank you section, I added one small line. "Special thanks to Emily's cousin, who generously covered half the wedding costs, $12,000. It was subtle, easy to miss if you weren't looking closely. But during dinner, one of Adam's uncles pulled out his phone to check the schedule and noticed it. He leaned over to another guest and whispered, "Wow, her cousin paid 12 grand for this?" It spread like wildfire. Suddenly, people were congratulating me, patting me on the back, thanking me for my generosity. Emily's smile froze every time someone mentioned it. She tried to correct them, but no one believed her. "Oh, don't be modest," one aunt said. "Your cousin saved the day." By the end of the night, Emily was fuming so badly she could barely look at me. She didn't speak another word to me, not even goodbye. The next morning, I got a text. "You ruined my wedding," she wrote. "I hope you're happy." I stared at the message, and for the first time in weeks, I felt calm. She had tried to manipulate me into paying thousands of dollars for her big day. She had threatened to cut me out of the family over money. But in the end, she got exactly what she deserved, a wedding where everyone remembered me, not her. I replied with just one sentence. You did this to yourself. And I blocked her number. After the wedding, things didn't calm down. In fact, they got worse. 2 days later, my aunt, Emily's mom, called me. Her tone was sharp. What on earth did you do? Emily says you sabotaged her wedding. I took a deep breath. Aunt Linda, I didn't sabotage anything. I showed up, I supported, and I helped with planning. If Emily thinks things went wrong, that's not my fault. She wasn't convinced. She's devastated. She says the flowers were late, the transportation was wrong, and the band embarrassed her. And everyone thinks you paid for half the wedding. Did you spread that rumor? I almost laughed. I didn't spread anything. Maybe people just assumed because Emily kept saying I was helping. There was silence on the line. I could feel Aunt Linda trying to piece it all together. Finally, she muttered, well, regardless, Emily is humiliated. She doesn't even want to go on her honeymoon right now. The call ended soon after, but I knew the damage was done. Emily's perfect wedding had turned into a storm of whispers and rumors. For weeks, family members reached out to me privately. Some were sympathetic. She shouldn't have asked you for that much money, one cousin said. That's insane. Others were curious. So, did you really pay $12,000? They asked. I never confirmed or denied. I just let the mystery grow. Meanwhile, Emily avoided me completely. She didn't respond to texts, didn't invite me to family dinners, and blocked me on social media. Fine by me. But then, something unexpected happened. Adam's sister, Rachel, reached out to me. She had always been skeptical of Emily, never fully approving of her. She invited me for coffee and said, I heard about what Emily did. Asking you for money like that? It doesn't surprise me. She's always been controlling. Rachel then told me something shocking. Apparently, Adam's family had been pressured into paying for half the wedding too. Emily had convinced them that both families should contribute equally. Adam's parents had already put down over $20,000. Can you believe that? Rachel said, shaking her head. She tried to squeeze money from everyone. Even Adam had doubts, but Emily insisted. He gave in just to keep the peace. Hearing that made my blood boil, but it also made me feel vindicated. I wasn't the only one Emily had tried to manipulate. She was a pattern of entitlement wrapped in a white dress. Rachel leaned closer and lowered her voice. Word has spread. People are saying Emily is selfish, greedy, and spoiled. Adam's parents aren't happy at all. They're already questioning if he made the right choice. That was the first time I realized my little acts of revenge had bigger consequences than I imagined. Over the next month, Emily and Adam's marriage started showing cracks. Friends whispered that Adam seemed distant. He avoided posting pictures of Emily online, while she tried desperately to show off their perfect life. One evening, I got another text from Emily. Despite blocking me before, she had created a new number just to send this. You ruined everything. My wedding. My reputation. My marriage. I hope you're proud. I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about responding, maybe rubbing it in, but then I realized something. I didn't need to. She was destroying herself without any help from me. But fate wasn't finished with Emily. 2 months later, I attended a family gathering. I wasn't sure if Emily would be there, but I went anyway. When I walked in, the room went quiet for a moment. Then people started smiling at me, patting my shoulder, asking how I was. Emily sat in the corner, looking miserable. She was thinner, paler, her eyes hollow. Adam wasn't with her. Apparently, he had chosen to skip the event. During dinner, an uncle raised his glass and said loudly, "We should all thank our generous cousin here, who practically paid for half of Emily's wedding." The room erupted in laughter and applause. Some people thought it was a joke, others believed it was true. Either way, Emily's face turned crimson. She slammed her fork down, stood up, and shouted, "It's not true. She didn't pay for anything. She sabotaged me." The room went dead silent. All eyes turned to me. I calmly set down my glass and said, "Emily, I never claimed I paid for anything. If people think that, maybe it's because of how you handled things." The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. My aunt tried to calm Emily down, but she stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. That night, I realized my revenge had gone far beyond what I originally intended. Emily wasn't just angry, she was unraveling. But deep down, I didn't feel guilty. Not one bit. Because she had brought all of this on herself. And the best part? I still hadn't told anyone the full truth. And the weeks after that family dinner, Emily's life began to spiral. Word about her meltdown traveled fast, and by the time Thanksgiving rolled around, nearly every relative had an opinion. She always was spoiled, one aunt whispered. Imagine demanding money like that from your cousin, another added. She embarrassed herself, not anyone else, someone else muttered. I didn't need to say a word. Everyone had already chosen their side, and it wasn't hers. Meanwhile, her marriage to Adam was falling apart. Rachel kept me updated, not because I asked, but because she enjoyed sharing the drama. He's barely home, Rachel told me over the phone. He's been staying late at work, and when he is home, they fight constantly. She keeps bringing up the wedding disaster, blaming him for not supporting her. He's tired of it. I almost felt bad. Almost. One night, Emily tried calling me again. This time I answered. What do you want, Emily? I asked, my voice calm. Her tone was shaky, desperate. I know we've fought, but please, can you help me fix things with the family? They all think I'm some kind of monster. You could clear this up. You could tell them it wasn't true about the money. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. Why would I do that? Because we're family, she cried. Please, I'm begging you. I can't keep living like this. Everyone hates me. Even Adam is pulling away. If you don't clear this up, I might lose everything. Her words should have softened me, but they didn't. Instead, they reminded me of that day she demanded $12,000 like it was nothing. Her cold threat. If you don't pay, you're not welcome at the wedding. The arrogance, the entitlement, the manipulation. I said quietly, Emily, you lost everything the moment you decided money was more important than family. I don't owe you anything. There was silence. Then she whispered, you'll regret this, and hung up. But the truth was, I didn't regret a thing. Christmas came around, and for the first time in years, Emily wasn't there. Rumor was, she and Adam had separated temporarily. Some said he moved back in with his parents. Others claimed he had filed for divorce. Nobody knew the full story, but one thing was clear. Emily's picture-perfect life was crumbling. During dessert, my grandmother leaned toward me and said in a low voice, You know, dear, sometimes karma takes its time. But it always comes. She gave me a little wink. I smiled because I knew she was right. By the new year, Emily had officially moved out of the apartment she shared with Adam. She was staying with her mom, who was utterly drained by the constant drama. Aunt Linda confided to another relative that she couldn't handle Emily's tantrums anymore. She blames everyone but herself, Linda admitted. She still says it's all your cousin's fault. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard that. Somehow, in her twisted mind, I was still the villain. But here's the thing. Emily had burned too many bridges. Friends stopped calling. Family avoided her. Even on social media, her once perfect feed was gone, replaced with vague, sad posts about betrayal and being misunderstood. The likes and comments grew fewer every day. And then came the biggest twist of all. One evening, Rachel messaged me, You're not going to believe this. Adam filed for divorce. Officially. He cited irreconcilable differences. I stared at the message, shocked. I had suspected their marriage was doomed, but I didn't think it would collapse this fast. Rachel added, His parents are relieved. They said they warned him about Emily, but he wouldn't listen. Now he's learned the hard way. I sat back, processing it all. Emily had gone from planning the wedding of the year to being divorced in less than 12 months. All because of her greed, her arrogance, and her refusal to take responsibility. Part of me wanted to reach out, to say something comforting, but I didn't. Because deep down, I knew she hadn't learned her lesson yet. She would probably spend years blaming me, blaming Adam, blaming everyone except herself. But the truth was simple. She destroyed her own life. And I just stopped her from dragging me down with her. By spring, the divorce was finalized. Emily moved back into her mother's house permanently, and the once proud bride who bragged about her dream wedding was now a cautionary tale whispered about at family gatherings. I didn't see her often, but when I did, she looked different. The fire in her eyes was gone, replaced by bitterness. She avoided me completely, turning her head whenever I entered the room. But even in her silence, I knew what she was thinking. She blamed me. For everything. One afternoon, at a small family barbecue, Emily finally cracked. She cornered me near the back porch while everyone else was chatting and laughing inside. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were filled with rage. You think you won, don't you? She hissed. You think you ruined me and got away with it. But you'll see. People will turn on you eventually. They'll realize you're the manipulative one. I didn't flinch. I just looked her straight in the eye and said, "Emily, I didn't ruin you. You ruined yourself. I just refused to be your victim." Her face twisted like she wanted to scream, but instead she stormed off, slamming the screen door so hard it rattled. Later that evening, my uncle pulled me aside. "She'll never admit it, but you're right. She did this to herself. Don't let her drag you into her mess again." And I didn't. Life went on. Months passed, then a year. Emily faded into the background. She stopped attending family gatherings altogether. Rumor had it she tried dating again, but it never worked out. She always brought up her failed marriage too soon, and people pulled away. Meanwhile, my life flourished. I got a promotion at work, moved into a better apartment, and strengthened my relationships with relatives who appreciated me for who I was, not what I could give them financially. But the most shocking twist came a year and a half after the wedding. I was visiting my grandmother when she handed me a letter. "This came for you," she said softly. It was from Emily. I hesitated before opening it, half expecting another round of blame. But what I found inside shocked me. Her handwriting was shaky, uneven. "I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe because I have no one else left. You were right. I destroyed everything. I pushed Adam away. I lost my friends. Even Mom barely speaks to me now. I thought money and appearances mattered more than people, but I was wrong. By the time I realized, it was too late. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I see it now. I see what I did. For a long time, I just stared at the letter. Part of me wanted to rip it up. Another part felt a strange, unexpected wave of sadness. Emily had finally admitted the truth. But here's the thing, I didn't respond. Not because I hated her. Not because I wanted her to suffer more. But because I had learned something too. Revenge isn't always about dramatic payback or public humiliation. Sometimes, the greatest revenge is simply stepping back and letting someone's actions catch up to them. Emily wanted me to pay $12,000 to prove my loyalty. Instead, she paid the price of her own greed, with her marriage, her reputation, and her peace of mind. And I walked away free. So when people ask me if I regret not paying that invoice, I smile. Because I didn't just save $12,000. I saved myself from a lifetime of being used. And Emily? She'll always remember the cousin who refused to play her game and ended up winning it without lifting a finger. Thanks for listening to my story. Please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.